Dominions of the Circle of Boros. Though its numbers are relatively small, the scope of the Circle of Boros is far-reaching. All of the wildernesses of Kain can be said to be within the Blackclad's purview, though as yet their domain does not extend much beyond Western Emerald. The powers of the Blackclads allow them to cross vast distances in the blink of an eye, and the Circle's ability to gather intelligence and dispatch its agents to where they are most needed gives it a responsiveness and flexibility that is hard to match. In every corner of the wilds are sacred sites protected by the Blackclads and their allies. The only regions the Circle sees as beyond their sphere of influence are those which is impossible for them to maintain a presence. Places like the main island of Kryx, irrevocably blighted by Turok, and the depths of the Abyss. While the Order is largely focused on Western Emerald, some members push the frontiers of their domains to explore new territories. Tentative efforts have been made to connect the Ley Lines beyond the Bloodstone Marches and to far-off lands like the southern continent of Zu, though these regions have yet to be fully integrated into the Ley Line network. Recent stresses on the Ley Lines have prompted the Circle leaders to escalate efforts to expand into these new regions. The Circle of Boros has divided Western Emerald into three large regions: the Northern Dominion, the Eastern Dominion, and the Southern Dominion. The Northern Dominion includes all of Khador, with its vast mountains and forests, as well as the Northern Auric Hills, the Ruick Mountains, and the Howling Wastes. The Eastern Dominion is expansive, if mostly uninhabited region outside of the Protectorate of Menoth, which include the Bloodstone Desert, the Bloodstone Marches, the Black River and its environs, the Rotterhorn, and the Iosan Peaks. The Southern Dominion covers the majority of Signar and beyond, which include the Gnarls, the Orgenholt in Ord, the Broken Coast and its islands, and the Wormwall Mountains. Each of these dominions falls under the oversight of one of the Order's omnipotents and is divided into smaller territories overseen by lower-ranking druids. The allocation of territory forms the basis for the convoluted hierarchy of the Circle of Boros. Despite its territorial claims, the Circle does not actually have power or authority over every square mile of these dominions. The Druids focus on the untamed wilderness regions, but also include in their purview areas encompassed by powerful nations and the domains of many hostile competing groups, some more overtly powerful than the Circle. The Blackclads have direct control over small pockets of these territories, usually centered on well-protected sacred sites, secluded villages, and other wilderness places. Most of their holdings relate to the Ley Line network they have established through these shifts and changes over time, especially after major natural or supernatural upheavals. To protect the vast wilderness territories they oversee, Blackclads must rely on the connections they have forged with the uncivilized peoples inhabiting such places. For each Blackclad, there are hundreds of allies and minions serving as warriors and willing pawns. Hierarchy and territorial responsibilities. Although the Circle has many alliances and minions serving in their interests, the only true members of the organization are the Blackclads themselves. There are echelons of power, authority, and knowledge within their ranks, and members must earn advancement to be entrusted with deeper mysteries and perhaps the oversight of territories themselves. In ascending order, Blackclads rank as Wilder, Warder, Overseer, Potent, and Omnipotent. These ranks have a direct bearing on the individual's responsibilities, and the gulf between successive ranks is vast. All power in the Circle of Boros flows downward from three ruling omnipotents who divide all the Order's territories among themselves and safeguard its deepest secrets. Lower-ranking druids are given tasks, responsibilities, and territories as a means of managing the Order's far-flung assets. In theory, the omnipotents have absolute power over their territories, but in reality, matters are more complex than this. The political machinations within the Circle are many-layered and treacherous. Each rank designates the degree of trust, autonomy, and authority a Blackclad has been afforded. Wilders have very few responsibilities other than to learn and obey. They have no autonomy and are accountable for only the very narrow tasks given to them by their mentors. Druids who survive their training as wilders and prove themselves over several years earn the promotion to warder. This rank is bestowed by the druid's mentor based on performance, initiative, and growing skill. Fundamentally, a warder's primary function is to do whatever his immediate superior asks, but he also must exercise initiative and sound judgment in the execution of those duties. A warder's task might include short-term missions like rooting out a preternaturous enemy or gathering intelligence, or longer-term duties such as aiding in the training of war beasts, constructing wolds, or watching over a specific region. Initially, a wilder or a newly promoted warder answers only to a single mentor, but most druids are required to balance multiple priorities, including orders from more than one superior. Sometimes a mentor will loan a subordinate to another blackclad as part of the complex exchanges of favors common within the order. Such arrangements befit the junior druid as well, as promotion to higher ranks require having more than one advocate within the hierarchy. Higher-ranking leaders frequently approach blackclads who are not their immediate subordinates to make demands of them. A blackclad who is already on a mission is under no obligation to agree to outsider requests, but such an opportunity to forge new alliances might not come again if refused. These favors are one of the primary ways a junior druid can begin to accumulate political power in the hierarchy, and so those with ambition will try to find a way to fulfill all tasks given to them if possible. Senior druids have long memories, especially regarding those who have failed or refused them in a time of need. Each blackclad must learn, often through a difficult experience, how to prioritize tasks given to them by separate and equally demanding masters. Ambitious druids quickly realize the only way to advance is to demonstrate initiative. Once a senior druid is convinced of the capability of a junior blackclad, he can create a lasting bond by offering a portion of his own territory. This is a form of feudalism. A blackclad is expected to carefully manage territories entrusted to him by his superiors. Accumulating and maintaining multiple territories is necessary for a druid to be entrusted with promotion to overseer. Such a promotion requires the supportive testimony of 2 or more overseers who have worked closely with the candidate, as well as the authorization of 2 or more portents. Overseers are a vital link in the circle's chain of command, trusted to undertake difficult missions requiring considerable coordination and personal power. They are responsible for sacred sites within the patchwork of their territories and must ensure their energies contribute to the ley line network. They must confront and eliminate any enemies that threaten the ley lines or the standing stones controlling their flows. The regional territories of an overseer are generally larger than those of what a lone blackclad can patrol, even with the aid of supernatural teleportation. This duty may fall to subordinate blackclads or to locals who can act as the druid's eyes and ears, and in times of threats, as expendable warriors. Overseers are expected to contribute to the identification, recovery, raising, and mentoring of new wilders. As well, an overseer with growing territories may seek out talented warders to watch over portions of their domains, reinforcing the chains of fealty and command. The accomplishments of junior druids reflects on those they serve, so it is advantageous to have subordinates who can distinguish themselves. Ambitious overseers will broaden connections to other senior druids in hopes of continuing to cement their value to the organization. Not all overseers supervise territories, though most do. Some capable druids even earn acclaim through other means, such as by leading strike forces into battle or constructing wolds. Elevation from overseer to potent is an even greater milestone. Each potent is a puissant master of elemental forces and a keeper of large territories scattered across multiple dominions. As with promotions from warder to overseer, an overseer can be raised to potent only if at least 2 of the ruling omnipotents agree the promotion is warranted. Potents are jealous of their individual power and often resent the rise of others to that rank, for each represents a potential rival with whom they must share territories, subordinates, and authority. The influence and authority of the potents makes it difficult for lower-ranking druids to refuse their orders, even if the requesting potent is at odds with the druid's mentor or other superiors. Animosities and even open conflict between druids and at this rank is common. Generally, members of the order vie with one another through subtle means, such as by poaching subordinates or persuading the leaders of tribal warriors in the rivals' territories to serve them instead. Bitter rivalries between the Blackclads can last for decades. The Omnipotents intervene if such conflicts threaten their larger goals, though some degree of compensation or even violence is tolerated and considered healthy since it fosters adaptability and culls the weak. Potents govern their own diverse territories by leveraging personal ability, charisma, bargains, bribes, favors, and old alliances. Because they are a representation of the authority entrusted to them by their feudal masters, their territories are vast, but not equal. Some druids even seek to expand their holdings by reclaiming lost territories to the order. At the top of the circle's hierarchy are the three omnipotents: Mosar, the desert walker of the eastern dominion; Daleklav, the scorching winds of the northern dominion; and Lortis, the watcher of the southern dominion. These figures inspire dread and awe in the rest of the order, for they safeguard the circle's most terrible secrets and mystical rites. They hold the legacy of the sworn pacts made at the birth of the order with primordial supernatural powers linked to the devourer worm. Omnipotents hold their position for life. Should one perish, those who remain call a grand conclave to select a successor from among the attending potents. The omnipotents know that their subordinates well and are generally already have determined who will be next to rise. Lortis is the most recent elevated of the omnipotents, having taken the place of Orboros in 606, after he was slain by Trocan forces led by Chief Madrak Ironhide and Horlug Doomshaper. Their unique sensitivity and connection to the Ley Line network allows omnipotents to extend their awareness through their dominions. Little of import transpires in the wildernesses of Western Immerun without coming to their attention. The full scope of the omnipotent's authority over their subordinates is reliant on their personal power and charisma, as well as the willingness of those they command to heed their dictates. This power structure sometimes requires omnipotents to make examples of those who defy them, reinforcing their fearsome reputations. Although all the omnipotents expect their commands to be obeyed, the Circle has long prioritized successful results over adherence to the precise letter of an order. Those who flagrantly disobey do risk reprisal from on high, or more subtle consequences such as being sent away to the far corners of Immerun on dangerous missions. For a druid, the key to surviving and rising through the hierarchy is to become an asset too valuable to easily replace. By the time a druid reaches the level of potent, he becomes difficult to reprimand or control. This was demonstrated recently by Kruger the Stormlord, who retained his position even after defying all three omnipotents, a feat possible only because of his growing power and an alliance with the ancient tree of fate. Secrets of the Circle of Orboros. Any organization with a history as long as that of the Circle will have their share of secrets. Only its ranking leaders fully understand the Order's inner workings, the extent of its hidden and shifting alliances, its invisible network of ley lines, and how these separate elements come together as the whole of something greater than the sum of its parts. The cost of protecting Orboros. For generations, the Blackclads have worked to keep the consciousness of Orboros, the devourer worm, focused on its battles in Urkaean. To this end, they have kept the life's blood of Orboros flowing through its mystical network while attempting to limit the spread of civilization. Without their work, the arteries of Orboros would become clogged, the worm would return to Caen, and an apocalypse would ensue. The Druids of the Circle are convinced that any extreme of violence is justified in their campaign against rampant civilization. The senior members of the Order will sacrifice any ally or resource and take any action, no matter how drastic, to attain their goals. Some of their methods may seem atrocious or barbaric to the morality of civilization or civilized humanity, but the Order's perspective is eminently pragmatic. Mastering the Ley Lines. To the Circle, the vital rivers of power known as the Ley Lines are the veins and arteries on Kain. The power within them is the life's blood of Orboros itself. The Ley Lines follow natural geographic features, moving along the courses of great rivers and the spines of mountain ranges. Along this web of ley lines are conjunctions or nodes of power, which the Druids of the Circle continually to work to identify, control, and utilize. The Blackclads have developed methods to amplify and harness the power of these ley lines. For centuries, they have erected stone columns above these paths. The ignorant believe such stones are no more than territorial markers, altars, or monuments. In truth, these stones are tools of immense power. The runes set into each tap and channel the flow of the ley lines below. The sites of the largest and most imposing stones are nodes where multiple ley lines can converge. The Circle has concentrated its martial might in these places. Druids have learned that the movements of the stars and planets are mystically tied to the ebb and flow of Kain's natural energies. By combining knowledge of the ley lines with celestial conjunctions, they enact extraordinarily potent rites. Many of the Order's more powerful mystical weapons, tools, and relics were created at ley line nodes during significant celestial events. Communication and transportation. Through their secret rites, Druids of the Circle of Orboros can send and receive complex messages from one standing stone site to another by simply manipulating the energy flows of the ley lines. It is the long-distance teleportation made possible by their major sacred sites, however, that is one of the greatest tools of the Circle. Traveling this way involves transformation through a complex and powerful ritual. The traveler literally joins with the energy of Orboros at one site, then flows through the arteries of the world to emerge solid and whole at a different connected site, no matter the distance. The loss of key ley line nodes can interfere with this network, potentially making remote sites inaccessible. Because teleportation efforts can be dangerous and disruptive, they are most often left to specialists called wayfarers, consummate masters of ley line travel. Even senior Blackclads rely on the coordination of powerful wayfarers to enact these rites, knowing that they are tapping into tremendous mystical forces. The movement of a single wayfarer is a negligible strain on the network and can be done simply. Other messages between distant members of the Order are conveyed directly by these individuals, who appear within a rumble of thunder and vanish in a flash of lightning. The potents and omnipotents also make regular use of this form of travel, their vast experience and subtle power allowing them to do so without the strain of others incur. Escorting larger numbers is much more difficult and requires exponentially greater power. Sending even a small group of a dozen or so individuals across Emerald requires coordinated effort and a great surge of natural energies. Teleporting hundreds or more at once can be initiated at the greatest ley line conjunctions and requires dozens of senior wayfarers working together during a specialized ceremony, celestial conjunction. Such a ritual can diminish the flow of power across the entire ley line network for weeks. Regardless of these limitations, the far-flung elements of the Circle can remain in close communication and coordinate precisely with each other because of the ley line network. Given sufficient cause, the Circle can send whole armies across the continent in a matter of moments, making it nearly impossible to anticipate their movements. There is also a cost of using such natural and chaotic power, however, due to the elemental forces being tapped. Earthquakes and powerful storms are among the most common consequences, and the repercussions can be unpredictable. In 609, the Blackclads reached the limit of the ley line network amid the circumstances that nearly resulted in the full manifestation of the Devourer Worm in the Bloodstone Marches. This strain was exacerbated by pressure exerted by allies like Wormwood, the corruptive influence of Dragon Blight on ley lines, and the efforts of the convergence of Cyrus to change the flows of many ley line intersections. The Eastern Dominion in particular was harmed by these events, creating a weakening in the barrier between Kaan and Urkaan that led to a variety of supernatural aftereffects. The Omnipotence enforced limits on the use of the ley lines so that the repairs can be conducted, but the matter is still not entirely settled, and the Circle of Boros has sent its agents farther abroad in an effort to extend its network for greater stability. The ban on large-scale teleportation is still in effect, and it remains to be seen if these effects will restore the ley lines to their former vigor.